Okay, welcome everyone to this continuation of AI for the working mathematician. And yeah, today's topic is like the traditional one in how AI affected modern research. I think most people, well, I don't have any statistics on this, but I think most people started using AI as an glorified spell checker, essentially. And it's really good at that. So I will get going to talk a little bit about that and how it actually is a bit better nowadays than a glorified spell checker. So spell checkers, of course, have been around for a long time, but with this whole idea of a transformer of the attention, it's not that just like spell checking like a little word, whether it's misspelled, but more like the type of sentences. So the whole idea of attention of large language models, if you want, is that they have this built-in, well, structure where they relate a word at a certain position in a sentence or even a book or whatever to everything related to it in the same sentence in the same book or whatever. So that kind of revolutionized a little bit how AI can help you with spell checking, and it's actually pretty good at this point. And that's what I'm going to talk about, how it can help you in writing, which I think is really important. I can't stress that often enough. Mathematicians are usually, well, they're not trained to be good writers, and a lot of math papers have a little bit of a questionable quality of how they are written. Obviously, people feel differently about what is well written and what is not well written. But there are certain authors who have a reputation. So everyone hates their writing, essentially, who have a reputation not being the best writers, illustrators, or whatever. And that's fine if you are a brilliant mathematician, because then people will still read your papers. But if you are like me and you're not a brilliant mathematician, most people are not brilliant mathematicians, in case it's not clear. So helping to have having a readable paper is actually really useful for your own work, for your visibility. Yeah, never underestimate visibility in research. Research is not just about results; it's also about the communication of results. Yeah, it doesn't help if you have the best theorem in the world and you are the only one knows it. That doesn't really help anyone, not even you actually. Yeah? So, kind of trying to get the point out of here that try to use AI in writing, so you have better written kind of your papers or whatever you're trying to publish are smoother written. Your script for your talk is smoother, where you still need to double check everything. It's AI, but that's essentially what AI is built for. So it actually works really well, and I'm going to explain a little bit how I do it. Whether you want to do it that way or not, I don't know, but for me, it at least works quite well. Okay, so the underlying point is, again, like in many of the previous videos, data from World Bank, so probably pretty accurate, is the number of papers just grows ridiculously fast. Yeah, so like a lot. Yeah, so there are a lot of papers, there are more and more papers, and God knows whatever. So like, God knows how many million academic articles are there every year. So, and it grows exponentially, probably. And why does it matter? Well, why does it matter for you? Last time we had why doesn't matter for you as a reader, because you can't read everything, right? AI can summarize things for you. This time, why does it matter for you as an author? Essentially because of the same reason, right? So there's too much work, people can't read it, so you kind of need to convince your reader to stay with your paper as long as possible, yeah? As long as possible. Every sentence you write will lose your readers, so you want to have it as conveniently written as possible. Conveniently written might be the wrong word here. You just want to keep the reader's attention, because nowadays, when there's so much information, so this video is roughly 10 minutes, and probably most people have already clicked away, right? Because we don't have any attention anymore. So for scientific papers, same problem. You want to keep the attention of your reader. And I tell that to younger people all the time because they kind of underestimate how important actually title, abstract, and introduction are, right? They want to stay, oh, we're doing mathematics, so we need to have every little lemma absolutely precise, and they add a lot of details to little lemmas. But if the reader doesn't even make it to the lemma, it's probably not all that important in the end, right? So you need to spend a non-trivial amount of time having a good title, having a good abstract, and having a good introduction. Things that people do, and they shouldn't, for example, is to put references in abstracts. Like, we prove a conjecture of 4, something like that. That's not the point of an abstract. A point of an abstract is that I, as a reader, have an idea what's going on, and then I open the paper. I decide whether I open the paper, right? If your abstract is we prove a conjecture of 4, then I'm forced to open the paper, and you already lost a lot of readers' attention, right? You should not do that. An abstract should be self-contained, for example. A title should not be too long. It should be a little bit catchy. An introduction need to make the main points very clear. So optimally, the reader doesn't even have to read a lemma 5004 in your paper, something like that. And AI is really good at helping you during this. Again, helping you doing this. We'll see that again and again and again. Of course, AI does mistakes. Everyone does. Humans do mistakes as well. So you kind of need to double check. It's really more a helper than a replacement, right? But again, let me make this point. Too many papers, so you somewhat need to stand out. You can't stand out because your math is just brilliant. My math is not brilliant, so that's not how I can stand out. So at least I try to polish my writing, right? So kind of make some sense, I hope. Okay, before I give you an example, a very innocent example, I tell you a little bit why is it so good at writing. And something I really enjoy about AI is, and you can disagree, of course. Feel free to disagree, but I feel like AI is making science a bit fairer, right? So like 50 years ago, it really mattered where you were, whose student you were, because there were so many kind of informal knowledge that you were not able to get from books. And if you're in the right institution and talking to the right people, then you had an advantage. And whether you liked it or not, but that's a bit unfair, right? And nowadays there are still variations of that. For example, almost all written literature is in English. That gives an advantage to native speakers, right? Not the native speaker's fault, it is just what it is, but native speakers get an advantage because almost all written literature, almost all talks, almost all presentations, almost all internet bullshit is, not just the bullshit, also the good part, is English, right? So you have an advantage if you're a native English speaker. And kind of AI helps a little bit to polish out that advantage if you want. Why? Because it's literally so good at translating and creating sentences. So if you really track, for example, how papers are written by people who are most likely not native English speakers, by most likely I mean something like if they have a non-English sounding name and they're affiliated to a non-English university, probably they're not native speakers. You could try that over time and you realize kind of the English gets better. And that's kind of important because you want to sell your work. So it kind of narrows the gap a little bit of unfairness. There will be other parts, life is not fair, right? There will be other parts where it makes life more unfair or whatever, so AI is not the solution to everything, but at least, like, in this sense, and similar in the last video, like, it is really good to find this hidden knowledge, which kind of smoothens out the kind of unfairness where you end up in the world, a little bit at least. Similarly here, it kind of smoothens out a little bit the unfairness that comes from, well, English is the main language of science. I kind of find this a little bit funny. Volume of non-English papers grows, by the way, but the percentage is essentially, well, it's essentially zero at that point. Kind of fun that it goes up here a little bit. So the Russian papers and the English papers were competing at one point in the Cold War, and there were a lot of German papers around, French papers around here. But in general, nowadays, a percentage of non-English papers is not all that great. And this is a reference in case you want to look it up. That was a lot of waffle trying to defend AI a little bit. Of course, again, the world is not fair. It will also make other things more unfair and whatever. But this is something actually that really works. So in particular, I've talked to many non-native speakers. A lot of them use AI in their writing. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. It makes your life a little bit easier. Makes life a little bit fairer, at least from that perspective. And why is AI so good? Well, in particular, the everyday AI, their large language models, their pattern machines. That's literally what they are built for. And then they are trained on a huge data set. They can write really nice and smooth sentences. They also produce a lot of shit. It's AI. Oh, AI always produces a lot of shit. But as I said before, also humans produce a lot of shit from time to time. So you need to still, it doesn't understand what you're doing, right? So you're still supposed to, I show you in a second how to do that. You're still kind of supposed to decide for yourself what you like. But yeah, this is what it's really good at, right? Local wording, sentence flow, removing repetition, finding stupid typos, all of that shit. Right? So the best way to do it usually is you write a text and ask it to polish it. Let's say, polish my text, give me 10 variations, keep my tone. Something like that. That actually works really well. Say that again. It's not like it writes your whole paper for you. It's more like you write an abstract yourself, let's say, fit it into AI and ask for how can I improve it. And that's essentially what you should do anyway, not for AI, but you should, in principle, go to your co-authors, friends, or whatever, and ask, how can I improve that? And you would be surprised, if you have never done that, how efficient that actually is. And AI is just somehow the cheap version of doing that, right? Instead of moving out of your house, you could just ask AI, and it's pretty good at that. It's actually pretty good at that. And there are even studies on this. So essentially what its studies find, so mid-level professionals, that's maybe not quite the working mathematician, but it's also not the beginner, right? Anyway, mid-level professionals, that's what they had a study on. And they were using either AI assistant or not, and they were compared to one another. And they were, of course, faster if they used AI. That's another reason that I haven't mentioned. But they also had higher quality output in writing. Yeah? It's quite remarkable, right? You get faster and you have higher quality output. It's not tremendous, 20% higher. So the way they did that, they had independent raters at the end who didn't know who were in the group of AI and not in the group of non-AI, and they were rating the quality of the writing. And 20% better is actually pretty good. If you just think about it, you can polish your paper and it gets 20% more readable. That's pretty good, actually. So it can really narrow, that's again the whole point. It can narrow the gap between weaker and stronger writers. So native speakers have an easier time to be stronger writers. They have bigger grammar, it's easier for them. So it can narrow the gap a little bit, which is pretty good. Yeah, and again, it's kind of the same story. They are like AI nowadays in 2025. It's really like accelerating or a clarity booster, or it helps, right? It's not a replacement for you. It just helps a lot. And this is what it's built for. So I would strongly recommend to actually at least give it a shot, right? Try to use it. Maybe it makes your text better. There's also the danger that a lot of people rightly point to, that probably AI is this idea, right? Large language models is this idea to average everything out. So eventually, if AI runs over all text in the internet and everyone uses it all the time to smoothen out their text, we have fewer extremes, right? Everything will be averaged out more. Whether you like that or not, I leave the decision to you, but that's what AI will do. It will average things out, right? So that's what it's essentially built for. And that is something that's not necessarily bad, and well, whatever. It might happen, it might not happen, but what I would recommend is you take it, use it, and then we'll see it in a second, and you just take whatever you like most, and you can still get a boost in the quality of your writing. So for example, what you can do is, I write a paragraph myself. That's, I think, I don't know a better way at this point. That's, I think, much better than asking AI, write me something about, it will be not great. It's much better to write it yourself, do something, maybe informal, whatever, roughly the structure that you want, roughly the tone that you want, roughly the message you want to convey. It's still about you, it's just about polishing here. And then you could ask something like, polish but keep my voice, give me 10 variants. So here, I ask about a sentence for an acknowledgement, and I ask it to give me 10 variants, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. We can go through it in a second. And the way I did it in the end, so here's the actual, it ended up in actual a paper. So the way I did it in the end is that I took one of the recommendations. Can we do that here? It's a bit too much zoomed in. Let's zoom out a little bit. DT reflects that pyramids will likely outlast humanity, while not detection collapses quickly beyond the easiest cases. Which I thought is a kind of a really nice and well-written sentence. DT reflects that the pyramids will likely outlast humanity, while not detection collapses quickly beyond the easiest cases. And I already knew, I wanted a sentence of that type, comparing pyramids outlasting humanity with not detection, because the paper is about not detection. That's why we did it, not detection. So I reformulated some version of it myself first, and then I asked for 10 variants. And most of them I didn't actually like them, but the sentence was outlasting humanity. I actually liked that, and this is just one of the 500 different iterations I went through. So I let it give me 10 versions. I kind of like one of them. Let me give it to me 10 versions of that sentence, and then kind of iterate and iterate and iterate until I find something that I like. So here you have already the sentence, DT notes that pyramids will likely outlast humanity, which I think was really good, but I didn't like any of the others. So I went through, at this point I already went through a few iterations, and I keep on going through more and more iterations until I find what I like. And I think that's very efficient. I'll tell you in a second why I think that's very efficient. But that's what it is, right? Polish, give me 10 variations. I edit the suggestions, let me give 10 variations. I edit the suggestions, and you can repeat that, of course, until infinity, until you're happy. Usually it converges fairly quickly, so it's not taking you too much time. I would recommend doing this on the important parts of your paper, like abstract or introduction or something. For lemma 512 in your paper, it's probably a bit of an overkill if you actually do that. The only problem here is, and I should make you aware of that, this is more efficient the more you know. That's what AI usually does. It's better for people. So this was also for mid-level professionals. That's already quite a little bit of professionalism here. So it's usually better if you already know what you want to do. And then it literally just polishes what you do. It's the same here. It can help you if you have no idea what you're doing, but you probably won't profit so much like someone who actually has some idea what they're doing. Right? So again, you already need to know a little bit, and that's totally fine. So AI will just polish your work. It will polish your proofs. It will polish your sentences. It will polish, and that's not bad. And sometimes, like, I really like this. Likely outlast humanity is a really good formulation. And I wouldn't have found that myself. I could have thought about this for 20 more days, and I still wouldn't have found it. And that's kind of the point why this is so efficient, in my opinion, because I really like this picture here. Something I learned way too late in life is that 10 people working for 1 hour is way more efficient than one person working for 10 hours. This is kind of the whole slogan of why people go to conferences, why you have collaborators and co-authors, because working together is so much more efficient than working alone. And it's mostly just because someone says something and then you have this click moment and I know what to do. But if someone doesn't coin that sentence, you will never have that moment, and you just sit there and you have no idea what to do. Right? So it's roughly the same. I really think I learned it way too late in life. I really think this is an extremely crucial fact of research and maybe even of life itself. I hope this point is reasonably clear, right? So here, I really like the sentence in the end. The pyramids will likely outlast humanity. I really liked it. Whether you like it or not is up to you, obviously, but I liked it. And I would never have found it if AI wouldn't have kind of pointed me towards it. It's literally the same type of thing. I could have talked to 10 people about it, obviously, right? But that's a bit inefficient. So my co-authors don't have so much time that I can ask them for 1 hour to just polish one sentence. Sometimes you do that actually in research. Sometimes you have an argument with your co-authors about on one sentence, but this gets a bit more efficient. And this is how AI works. Yeah? You just give it free variants. Maybe it clicks for you, and you think, "Oh, this is really nice." Maybe not. Who knows? Who knows? Well, I feel like in writing, AI is really useful, right? You can get more efficient. You can spend more time on other things. Huh? It's still important to have a readable paper, so why not try to smooth out sentences? Again, I agree that the more you do it, the more uniform your papers will sound, whether you like that or not, but you can also keep your tone, right? So you still have a certain tone in your paper. On average, probably what will happen is that papers will sound more equal. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But you can try it yourself. Literally, I would recommend, whatever, take your abstract, whatever you have to write, a little introduction for your thesis or something. You write it first, and then put it in AI, let it give you variants, look at some sentences, maybe you like a certain formulation better, and then iterate and iterate and iterate until you hopefully have a clearer result. And usually you do, because again, that's the whole point of AI, it averages things out. And most of the time, an average formulation that most people agree on is probably better than something that you like a lot. But you can also do things that you like a lot. I mean, this is a little bit of a strange acknowledgement, I guess, but I like it a lot, so I can use AI to actually do it. Keep in mind, just as a last sentence here, you are still the author, right? The AI is like a writing coach, if you want, a very noisy one because it's AI, not a replacement for you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you next time.